Hi, Year 11, welcome back, and I'd like you to have a look at this photograph and answer the three coloured questions. What can you see, what do you know for sure, and what can you infer, what can you kind of tell and work out about this area? Got 5 minutes to do that. Jot down all your answers. Pause the video now. Okay, so for example, in the background we can see vegetation. These are sand dunes, and the area is well maintained. There are trees in the background, which shows succession has been completed, as in the sand dunes have been managed well enough that the vegetation hasn't all eroded away. On the left we've got signs and seats, which shows us that people, tourists, enjoy visiting this area. It's a honeypot site, meaning this is a very tourist-heavy area. Lots of tourists are attracted here. There's sand. Depositional landforms here. This is obviously a beach, and again with sand dunes in the background. So there's a strong onshore wind, the wind coming onto the shore as a large beach area has developed with sand dunes behind it. Clearly not too much heavy erosion going on this particular beach. And also there's bins. The area is looked after and managed. They are keeping people to one specific place. You can see the barbecue area. You're not allowed to have barbecues anywhere other than here, away from the vegetation in a safe place. And it makes it easier to maintain the ecosystem and prevent damage to it by too many people walking around the dunes or leaving litter behind. So look at that, quite a lot we can work out just from one photograph. Okay, so this lesson, much like the rivers topic, we look at all the landforms as you have in the past few lessons, and then we have to look at an example of both erosional and depositional landforms on a particular coast. And a number of you I know from speaking to you have visited this before, often at primary school. We're going to talk about the Swanage coastline, Old Harry's Rocks and places like that. So copy the title, read through the objectives. You need a pen and a pencil today, so get yourself sorted. Okay, so just have a little watch of this video. Nothing to do other than just enjoy the footage of this area, just to get a sense of what this area is like. Okay, so we are, as it said, in Swanage. Could you please write a location? Where is Swanage located in the UK? You've got some bullet points there just to give you some guidance. Keep it geographic, keep compass directions in there, place names, those kind of things. Should take a few minutes, 5 minutes at most. Pause the video now. Okay, so it's on the south coast of the UK in the county of Dorset. It's in southeast Dorset, and a little bit extra to add to your description. You can see on the map on the right there, this region known as the Isle of Purbeck. Not actually an island, but it is known as the Isle of Purbeck, and it is on the east of that. So could you add that sentence there as well to your location? Pause the video now. Okay, so we've got three key terms here: geology, lithology, and characteristics. All three were in the objectives at the start. Could you jot down those definitions? Really pay attention to the difference between geology and lithology. Very similar, but different points. Pause the video now. Okay, so here's where it gets a bit technical. So we have two different types of coastline: a discordant coastline, and you can see that on the east side there, where Swanage itself is in fact located, and the bays and the points or headlands are labelled. And then you've got concordant coastlines. The definitions up the top hopefully help that make sense in the diagram as well. So what I'd like you to do is to jot those two definitions down and do a simplified version of that diagram, just to show which is discordant and which is concordant. You don't need to put Poole Harbour in, you don't need to write even the bays and the points on there. Just a simple diagram to go with those definitions to show which is which. That should be about 10 minutes. Pause the video now. Okay, so here's an Ordnance Survey map, something you haven't seen for a little while, but a very important geographical skill to be familiar with. This is a Swanage area. You can see Swanage itself, the settlement, down at the bottom right of this map in the southeast. You can then see the coastline extending to the north and to the south, kind of west, heading west across the bottom of the map. On the next 4 slides, I'm going to show you the names given to some of these. The task for you is to write these down in your book and a sentence describing them, their characteristics. So let's get. So the first one, Studland Dunes. Hopefully you can remember from last lesson that is a depositional landform. So a key feature of deposition here is on the bay in Studland Bay. We've got Studland Dunes, sand dunes. Write that down and describe from the photograph the environment there. Pause now. Okay, so very famous. Some of you have visited it. I know some of you have found it underwhelming, if I remember correctly. But nevertheless, Old Harry's Rocks are one of the best examples, and most well known certainly, of stacks around this part of the world. So if you could, again, write Old Harry's Rocks and describe what you see. Pause the video now. Okay, so something you could have added to Old Harry's, just to add to what you've written. Hopefully you've described that the rock is very white, and if you go back to the map on a few slides ago that you did a rough copy of, this is chalk, a very resistant rock, something that is very resistant to erosion, hence why we have a headland and stacks formed. So make sure that you've added chalk to your description, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, Swanage Bay. Again, look carefully at it. What landform is it? Fairly obvious one, hopefully, that you can see in the bay. Is it depositional or erosional? Well, that should again hopefully be fairly obvious. Over to you to write that down, Swanage Bay, and a description of it. Okay, so obviously the bay itself is a landform of erosion, but the beach that is formed all the way along it, very popular for tourists, is the landform of deposition. So make sure you've got both those down, and we'll move on to the last one, which is Durlston Head, the headland in the very southeast of this Isle of Purbeck, just to the south of Swanage itself. Again, if you go back a few videos ago, or a few slides ago, sorry, you'll know the rock type. So describe what you see. All right, so obviously we've got steep cliffs here. We've got, in some ways, sort of a wave-cut notch formed at the bottom. Actually, you can see that if I just put up my laser pointer here. You can see a wave-cut notch, and here a wave-cut notch. So that's definitely something that you could and should have written down. So jot that down now. This is limestone, another more resistant rock. So there we go. Those are the 4 landforms we're going to be focusing on. Old Harry's Rocks and Durlston Head, definitely erosional landforms. Swanage Bay, a mixture of erosion and deposition. And Studland Dunes, very much deposition. So a bit of everything. Okay, so I'll have attached the PDF. You've got the map you've just seen as well. You've got these questions to answer. So full sentences, please. Make sure it is useful for revision. This is going to take at least 20 minutes. So for question 1A, for example, what rock forms the headland at Durlston Head? Well, I've literally just told you the rock that forms the headland at Durlston Head is, and then tell me, and then move on. So like I said, 20 to 30 minutes for this. Pause the video now. Okay, I've put the answers up now with the activities again, just to remind you what they go with. So yes, Durlston Head is limestone, the type of rock of Swanage Bay, clays and sands, much more softer rocks, much more prone to erosion or less resistant to erosion. Number 3, or sorry, 1C. Explain why headlands and bays have formed along this stretch of coastline. Sorry, it says number 3 there, doesn't it? It says 1, 2, and 3 rather than 1A, B, and C. Never mind. The softer and less resistant clay and sands have been eroded by the sea more rapidly than the more resistant limestone and chalk. So it's about that differential erosion. 2A, explain why sediment that has been deposited on the beach in photo B, why has it been deposited there? Low energy waves have deposited sand in the sheltered bay. You could have mentioned constructive waves. 2B, why has a beach formed in Swanage Bay? Sands build up at the head of Swanage Bay due to wave refraction. That's something that you might not have talked about before. We mentioned it briefly to form the beach. Again, you could have mentioned constructive waves there. 2C, the broad sandy beach is a safe environment for sunbathing, swimming, or playing in the sand. That's why the beach is popular with visitors. 2D, evidence that the tide is going out of the clear line with seaweed. Well done if you noticed that. And below this, the sand is darker, suggesting the tide is going out. That's really encouraging you to look super carefully at photographs. So well done if you got that right. At 3A, reasons why sand dunes have formed at the back of the beach. That is to do with the vegetation, trapping it, building it up, it being blown and dried at the back as well. 3B, what is the name of the grass? Well, marram grass. And how does it stabilize the dune? Sorry, it has long roots that help bind the soil together, or sorry, the sand even. And finally, the characteristics of the barbecue area. We mentioned this right back at the start. It means that people are less likely to have barbecues elsewhere, reducing fire hazards and limiting damage or rubbish to the area. So there we go. Well done. Good job with all of those. Obviously, anything you didn't get quite right, please do make sure you've corrected it now. Okay, great job. Thank you very much. That is the first lesson of 2 on Swanage. We're going to come back to it next lesson, actually, and do a little bit more work on it. So thank you very much. Take care. Hope you're all well. Let me know if you need anything, or if you want to share any work with me particularly. That would be lovely. It's always good to see how you're doing. Take care. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I shall see you soon. Bye.